Hello, everyone, and welcome to The Way is in Training. This is a podcast exploring how warriors should train and fight, as well as how they should live. We will talk about technique, but we'll also dive deep into fitness, mindset, and strategy. We will explore leadership and philosophy as well. So whether you are a young soldier, a veteran police officer, a responsible armed citizen, or simply someone looking for an authentic life, let's examine how the lessons of combat and preparation for it can help us fulfill our potential. Let's explore the way together and learn how the discipline of training can show us our true selves amidst the chaos of life. Hey everybody, welcome back. In this episode, I've got my friend Castillo of Rokos Barbell, and I cannot pronounce it. How do you pronounce
Tlacuache tactical.
What he said. So extensive background in law enforcement, fitness training, martial arts, shooting, all the stuff that I love to talk about. So this should be a good one today, guys. So real quick, why don't you fill everybody in a little bit, at least in general terms, on your background and what you do and how you got there.
I'm a police officer. I'm an LT right now. I've been in the profession for 23 years. I'm going to give it a few more, maybe about 3 years. And during my course of service, I've been able to run a canine. So I worked EOD for a while. That was a lot of fun because when you're not running the dog, these techs would allow me to be the assistant tech. So prepping charges, making sure that everything was good to go, running robots, doing just fun stuff, man. I made it to the SWAT team. That was kind of like the beginning of my fitness journey, was prepping for that. And we can talk about that here in a little bit. And that was an outstanding time. I did that for over 12 years, entered competitions with the team in that arena, and that was fun. And promoted to sergeant, did a patrol sergeant gig for 4 years, and that was a blast. I honestly believe that the patrol sergeant is the most fun job in any police agency, because you're still there in it with your personnel, but you have now authority to execute things and to get stuff done and to just take charge, man. So it's a lot of fun. You're kind of sandwiched a little bit between admin and your personnel, but as long as you can be a good filter for your personnel, it is an absolutely fun job. Like, I enjoyed that very much. But if you want to get stuff done, you need brass. Yeah, absolutely. You just have to have brass if you want to get the bigger things done. And so when I talk to the patrol sergeants, I'm like, look, every single one of us, like every cop, right, that's been through an oral board, we all said we wanted to help our community, right? We wanted to make a difference. I said, okay, as a patrol officer, as a detective, you can do that, right? But if you want to make a bigger splash, you need stripes. Because now you're in command of, I had 10 personnel working for me, and I had a very solid crew and very highly aggressive group of men and women that worked with me, and we had a blast. But if you want to make change at the agency level, you need brass. And so that's what I'm telling my patrol sergeants, like, dude, you need to promote, like, think bigger, because now you're a policy changer, right? Now you can say, no, we're going to go with this piece of equipment or with this program, or we're going to implement this rule or this reg. And now at the community level, now you're chunking a bigger rock into that pond. And so that's been one of the things that I've been talking to the patrol sergeants about is, hey guys, you got to promote, man. And so as lieutenant, I've been director of training. That was a lot of fun. I think that's been the most fun that I've had at the lieutenant level, right? I moved over to special investigations and had a blast. I got to work with the narcs, with the burglary task force, and with the auto theft task force. And being able to take the concepts, the principles, the team concept from SWAT and bring it to kicking doors with my narcotics guys.
Yeah.
That was a blast. And being able to bring them into training on CCC and like, okay, boys, we're going to line up. Let me check all your kit. Where's your tourniquet? Where's this? Where's that? Where's your IFAX? And being able to make a really small unit, very agile, very fast, very aggressive. That was a lot of fun. got transferred from there to patrol division and back to my home, and just got right back in it with my patrol personnel as a patrol lieutenant. Worked about just shy of 2 years. It was 22 months on graveyard shift, and that was fun, man. I had a very, very solid crew, man. So right now I'm an adjunct, so I work directly for my commander, and whatever he needs gets done. And he's an outstanding supervisor to work for, and so I enjoy my assignment right now for sure. Like, working for him has probably extended my stay.
Yeah, I think this is kind of resonating with me a little bit, right? Because I think the most fun I had as far as the people that worked for me was when I was a sergeant of a small team. You know, whether it was in gangs or whether it was the rapid cars or what I had when I was a brand new patrol sergeant, right? So it was kind of like having a small team in uniform on patrol, because we were the rapids. We weren't tied down to a beat. And like, that was probably the most fun as far as like managing personnel, right? Like, you know, because like you said, if you can keep the BS off your guys' backs,
right,
and show them that loyalty runs both ways for you,
yes,
they'll move mountains for you. They really will. They'll do anything.
Sergeant is a good filter.
But then, like, the most kind of professionally satisfying spots I had were like, so I had what would have been a lieutenant spot in New York. I ran a detective squad, and then I was the director of training for SWAT after going back there as a sergeant after I left the detective bureau. And in both of those spots, like, I was managing big things. Like on SWAT, I was, you know, helping pick what weapons we bought, helping like get the ammo contracts, doing all the training calendars, and, you know, getting all that organized and getting the selection process. So like, our whole selection process was my baby. Like, I revamped it, you know, and I asked them for 3 months for our operators course for new guys. Remember, we were a full-time team. Thinking I would get maybe a month or 90 days if I was lucky. And they gave me all 3 months.
Wow.
So,
nice.
You know, I was like, well, if I'd known that, I'd have asked for 6. But, you know, so I got to do that, and I got to like kind of sort through our selection process and kind of put my influence from SF into it. And that was really rewarding. And like, as much fun as it is to be a sergeant in patrol or in gang investigations or any of that, right? There's something really rewarding about knowing that you're going to leave your mark on the department after you're gone.
Exactly. Absolutely. Yes. And, you know, just going into that, right, when I was director of training as a lieutenant, training division, I went over there and said, okay, the first thing we're going to do, because at that point we didn't have IFACs issued, right? I mean, guys would buy tourniquets on their own and kind of like learn on their own. And I was like, nope, we're going to standardize this thing. And so I think one of the things that I can walk away from this career knowing is that we've had personnel in 3 shoots, like 3 solid, I mean, outstanding shootings, right? And immediately they rendered aid to the subject that they shot and were able to preserve their life. You know, so there's 3 folks at least walking around with second chances at life because that officer had the training to fix themselves and get themselves square. And so, you know, I can walk away, whatever they do with their second chance is up to them, right?
Yeah.
But they've been given that, you know, and they may not have had that. That family may not, you know, have them today. You know, name the holiday, they may not be there. So we'll see what they do with it. Time will tell. But yeah, gosh, man, it's been a good run. I mean, I'm still in it, right? But I don't take a whole lot of time to look back and say, okay, yeah, we've been able to accomplish these things.
Well, don't fall into the trap I did. My original plan was to retire a year earlier than I did.
Yeah.
And I fell into that trap of, well, if I leave, how will all this get done?
Oh, it'll be fine.
It'll be fine.
Yeah.
I guarantee you they hopefully they miss me as a person. I guarantee you they don't miss me being there at work.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
It's just fine. Right.
And I think that, like, us as cops, that's where a lot of us go wrong. And I know that I did this early on, is that I tied my identity into my job.
Yeah.
And so when you hear men first meet each other for the first time, what do they ask?
Yeah. What do you do?
What do you do? Right. Women don't ask that question. Women,
No.
I said, how many kids do you have? You know what I mean? They're going to ask something to that effect, right? But men, immediately, what do you do? And so that was something that I really had to tear myself away from and say, look, this is what I do and I enjoy it, but it's not who I am.
It's not the sum total of who you are, at least.
Right. Yes. It's a
And
piece.
yeah, and that's been something that, so like, I'm not going to lie, it took me about a year to adjust to retirement. Like, it really did. Right. And retirement from the Army didn't hit me the same way. I remember I was still in 20th group doing the part-time SF thing. Right. When I retired from the Army, I still had SWAT. Right. So it was like I still had the juice still.
You still had that team, that camaraderie.
Yeah, I still had the juice.
Time.
It wasn't totally the same, but it was close enough that it didn't really, like, it wasn't even like a speed bump. I just kept on going.
Right.
And ironically, it wasn't until I retired from the police department that the retirement from the Army hit me.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it took about a year of like kind of figuring out who I was now.
Yes. And I can see that, yeah.
But coming through that on the other end, like, I'm happy to be retired now. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, I'm nostalgic for it.
Right.
You know, I'll always love the guys I worked with. I'll always be proud of the things I did. I have so many great memories and stories in a life that I never would have had without paying that entry ticket. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
But I also don't mind that I'm not doing it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, there is life after it.
Yes.
And I think a lot of us lose sight of that and you see it, they have just nothing, you know? And those are the guys that only live 18 months after retirement, you know, the old cliche. 5
years, man. That's a life expectancy. Yeah. Which is wild.
Well, I've already beaten that. So
yeah. Good, man.
I'm going to get my money's worth out of the Chicago pension. Let me tell you.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's my plan too. We'll see. We'll see how it goes.
Well, that's a good segue. Speaking about getting our money's worth, because staying shape is one of the greatest indicators of longevity, right? Let's talk about your fitness background. Let's talk about that.
So, of course, you go to the police academy, and man, I was railed in. I was probably, gosh, man, I want to maybe in the 150s. You know, just I weigh 225 now. You know, I was in the 150, just railed in. My partner retired last week, and we had a party for him. And so he's running on a flash drive pictures of us when we were in the academy. And I was like, bro, we were children, dude, like young. Well, me being on patrol and being around SWAT guys and just some of them were senior, man, and just looking up to these guys, man. And I said, you know what? I want to do that. And I remember when I first came on, my uncle was a cop further up north in Texas than where I'm at. And he went out and bought a 1,000 round ammo can, a 45 ACP ball. Because at that time we were running the 4506, the old Smith & Wessons, man. That gun probably weighed 5 pounds. Yeah.
I'm not a fan.
Well, man, I tell you what, I learned to run that silly thing. So my uncle gave me a 1,000 round can and said, here, go and learn. And so I met up with my range master, and he was one of the marksmen on the SWAT team. And I said, dude, make me a gunfighter. And he said, all right, we're going to do this. And we got that thing. We worked it down all the way to about a fourth of that can. He says, we're not going to do anything more than 300 rounds per session. He says, because then you start to get tired. And it got to the point where remember the old Safari Land SS3s? Double snaps, right? It got to the point where he's having to stand and watch my holster because he's like, you're not snapping it. I'm like, yes, I am. So he'd put a little 1-inch square at 7 yards, give me 1.5 seconds to hit that square. And man, I was hitting it. And so we got pretty good with that big old pistol, man. It's clunky, but you just got to work with what you have. You know what I mean? And that's what I had available to me. So growing up around guys like that and just sitting and listening to their stories and watching them come back from operations, and I decided, you know what, I want to do that. You know, what do I have to do? And so you need mentors, man. Like, men need mentors, right? You need a tribe around you.
We need mentors and we need rites of passage.
Yes.
And I think the lack of those two things causes a lot of problems in young men.
Yes. A lot of boys don't grow up because nobody ever told them. You know, there was nothing that they had to, not a line that they had to cross to say that they're men. So now you have, 30-something-year-olds at Comic-Cons dressed like, comic book characters, right? They're still playing with cards. So sitting down and talking with the old timers, with the SWAT guys, and okay, what do I need to do? And they're like, look, this is what you need to do. This is the standard. At the time, it's the Cooper standard, which is nothing really. And I'll never forget the first mile that I ran, and it was miserable. Everything hurt. And I said, I will never feel this way ever again. Like, this is the last time that this is going to suck. And so getting into running, getting into the gym, and making the team. And it got to the point where on qualification day, we had to run 1.8 miles, which is just such an odd number for someone to pick, not 1.5, not 2, 1.8, and running that in 10:36. I'll never forget the time. And man, I just felt like I was gliding. And that was the start of it, and at that time, not having direction, because these guys are all like super jacked, man. I'm not going to go in there and rep 315, and I said, okay, well, what do I do? And so I was like, well, let me get training videos. And so getting videos online and playing the discs at home and just working out at home with whatever I had, which was like dumbbells and rubber bands and whatever, and putting the pull-up bar in the door frame and getting, yeah, dude, just like, old school stuff, man. Work with what you got, right? You just got to start where you're at. And getting onto the team and then getting pulled aside again and saying, okay, you're fast, but can you carry me?
Yeah.
When I'm in full kit, can you drag me out? And they're like, we're happy you're here. We're happy you're fast, but now you got to get big, And then so that journey was way different, man, because I finally got up into the 160s, which is great, but still small. You know what I mean? And I look at pictures now. The other day, my wife was looking at a picture of me doing a SWAT competition. And she's like, that's a medium shirt you're wearing there, right? It's like, yeah. And your arms aren't blowing that sleeve out. Like, no, they're not. She's like, yeah, way different. And seeing the effect that being physically fit has had, not only at work, but in between your ears, and being able to process things differently and being able to put bad calls into the gym, right? Instead of into a bottle, right? Which is what I had been doing prior to all this, so getting away from drinking, I put down drinking. I made a commitment because we're on call all the time. We were a part-time team, but we're always on call. But there was 7 solid full years of I wasn't going to drink, and I just didn't have a drop of anything at all.
When I was on SWAT in Chicago, the only time I ever had a drink was when I was on furlough.
Yes.
Because
if you're out of town,
and not only was I on call, but once I became the training coordinator, like I was on call for every troop.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't just, it was the entire team. I would get the call. And I didn't want to be the guy who had to say, no, I've been drinking.
I can't go.
I never wanted that. You know?
Yeah, exactly. And it happened a couple times, guys would say, hey, look, it's my birthday or whatever. I'm going to have a few drinks. So if anything pops off, I can't go. And I was like, nope, it's not going to be me. If something's kicking off, I want to go.
And I'm not judging anybody else for that either. It was my decision. I didn't want to miss one call out.
Exactly. Yeah. I was in the same boat. I remember one time coming home and it was New Year's Eve and I had just worked graveyard shift and get out of work at 7. By 8 o'clock, I'm in bed. Well, 9 a.m. we have a call out. Right. And my wife's like, are you going? I'm like, yeah. She's like, you're on 1 hour sleep. I'll be fine. And sure enough, went and handled the call. And
Angela can tell you stories about me being at work all day and then staying on overtime for a hit and then coming home and eating dinner, then getting called out for another one.
Yeah.
And then coming home at midnight and trying to go to bed and getting called out at 2 a.m.
Yeah.
And then just staying at work for the next day.
Yeah.
There were more days like that than I want to count.
Yeah. There's nothing black coffee can't fix.
Yeah. White monster.
Yeah. There you go.
The guys that work for me could always tell how much sleep I had by what flavor of caffeine I was drinking.
Yeah.
If it was Diet Coke, it was a regular day.
Yeah.
If it was Diet Mountain Dew, I was a little tired. If it was White Monster, I hadn't slept at all.
Oh man. Yeah, I know, dude. I don't even know how I did it. Just bangs, I guess. Bangs and C4s and Red Bulls and whatever I could.
You've had Rip It. You've had Rip It, right?
Yes.
All right. So
I have.
Me and a buddy of mine on SWAT, who's also a supervisor. We're behind a ballistic blanket inside a little ghetto convenience store. And the guy that just robbed the store is holed up in the back room. There's no way for him to get out.
Yeah.
So we set up we're just waiting him out. We got a ballistic blanket set up, they're trying to get him to answer the phone so they can negotiate with him. You know what I mean? We're literally just sitting there waiting.
Yeah.
And we were both vets. And I'd never seen Rip It in the US at the time. Rip It was what we drank overseas.
Right.
Mike Nowacki. And I look at Mike and I'm like, hey, Mike, they got Rip It on that shelf over there. And Mike goes, what? Cover me. And he runs and he grabs a Rip It and runs back and comes sliding back behind the ballistic blanket on his knees with this big fucking 12-pack of Rip It. And I am so glad that we didn't, just for his sake, because it would have been just so bad for the guy if we had actually gotten in a gunfight with him, because we were so jacked up on Rip It behind that ballistic blanket. We were like Beavis and Butthead and OD Green with M4s. It was hilarious.
The one time you're thankful for the negotiators, right? Because normally you're just like, God, just hurry up. Let's go. Yeah.
Yeah, we were just like, we were a red line, man. We were like vibrating.
I found Rip Its here. I want to say it was like at a Dollar General or something, like somewhere you'd never expect. I was like,
oh yeah, no, they're ghetto without a doubt. Yeah, it's But it was just, you just had to understand, like it was all we had overseas, right? So you saw the Rip It, you were like, well, I gotta have some Rip It.
That'll make everything better. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it'll make everything so much better. All right, where were we? Sorry for the sidetrack.
So we're starting getting into fitness, man.
Yeah,
training in general, dude. And so in LE, so you're going to be expected to do things and be called to action, right? I mean, that's why we became cops. You wanted to help people, you wanted to make things better, you wanted to do something. Well, then, in my opinion, you should probably be physically ready to do that. Mentally ready to do that. And my question to officers is, as soon as I see my rookies, and I love talking to my rookies, man, because they're in that honeymoon phase. They have that fire in their eyes, and it's very different. Fast forward maybe 2 or 3 years, and that light in their eye is going to change a little bit, because now they've been exposed to more calls, a little bit more trauma under their belt. But I always love talking to my rookies, and first thing I ask them, are you in the gym? Are you training any sort of martial art? And if not, you need to, so right away I start getting them. I say, you need to get in the gym. First and foremost, let's go beyond the physical aspects of it, right? Because I'm not even talking about aesthetics. I don't care about that. I'm talking about like the in between your ears. And I'll give you an example. My son, he'll graduate here this year, but I remember last year he came home from school and he had just had like a terrible day. I mean, he was in a bad mood. And I looked at him and I said, well, get dressed. He said, well, why? I said, we're going to the gym. You're going to go max out right now. So we're going to go max you on deadlifts. He said, I don't want to go. I'm like, I don't care. Get dressed. We're leaving. And so, man, I ran that little dude into the ground, maxed him on his deads. I mean, he PR'd because he was that angry. And I said, all right, good. And so we're driving home and he says, Dad, thank you. He's like, I feel better. And so he on his own was able to link, if I've had a bad day, I need to go to the gym.
Yeah.
Right. And so I had sat down with a neurologist and I'm like, Doc, walk me through depression, walk me through anxiety, walk me through all the mental health side of the house. And this guy was brutally honest. He's like, look, I could give you this little bottle of pills, or you can go to the gym and make your own chemicals. He's like, because all we're doing is offsetting chemical with chemical. Yeah. Right. He says, you go to the gym, you drag something heavy, you lift something heavy, you push something heavy. He says, you just burn it out and you will push all of that negative out, because these endorphins will kick in and they cannot occupy the same space. And so that's my big thing with physical fitness and law enforcement is you need to burn off these calls, man. You need to burn off these things that you see, these things that you're going to process and deal with. Just burn it off in the gym, because it's a lot better for you than, drinking it away, right?
Yeah, and not even just that. I think like I think it's even bigger than that. Like you've got a martial arts background.
Oh
too.
yeah, absolutely.
We both do, right?
Yes.
And I think just the act of training, and I don't mean necessarily going to a training class or taking a 40-hour class from somebody, because those are like special events in your training. That's not what your training is. People get it wrong. Your training is what you get up and do every day.
Yes.
What am I doing?
Yes.
Am I doing my dry fire? Am I doing my conditioning? Am I lifting?
Consistently doing, yeah.
Yes. And I just think, for me at least, and I don't think I'm alone in this, just the act of having that continuity in my life, that's always something that I'm doing. You know, and the shape may change, right? You know, it may be sometimes I'll be doing more of this than that, and vice versa. Or like I've got so many injuries and surgeries now that my workouts have changed, right? But I haven't stopped working out.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like it can change throughout your life, and that's okay. But the act of training being a constant throughout your life, I think gives you a grounding that people that don't have that will never understand.
Right. There's a regimen. Yeah. Like me, I already know 4:15, I got to wake up and I'm going to the gym at 5.
Yeah. We wind up DMing ourselves, you and me, a lot
at about 4 in the morning. Yeah.
Yep. Because we're both getting up to train.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm getting ready to go to the gym. And my wife will ask, she said, okay, well, why do you wake up so early? Because normally I'm running on about, 6 hours of sleep, right? 6.5. Because I know that if I can knock out that main barbell movement before 7 a.m., whatever happens that day, I'm okay. Because I went to the gym, and then I'll go back in the afternoon with my son and I'll do my accessories and then I'll run him through some stuff. But man, the mornings that I don't make the gym, goodness gracious, I'm not a happy camper at all.
No, I'm just off the whole day. Like if I don't get it in, something's just off the rest of the day.
Yeah.
Even if it's like a little light session, even if I'm tight on time,
do something.
Just do 15, 20 minutes and just knock something out.
Yes.
And it changes.
The day's ready. We can start now. Yeah.
Yeah. It changes you for the day. Really. It doesn't change the day for you. It changes you for the day.
Right. Exactly. And so I'm able to be more centered because, okay, I checked that box. No matter what happens today, it's fine.
Yep.
Because I made it to the gym. Right. And so, and again, now tying into the physical side of it, police work is very demanding physically because it's the odd hours, the shift changes, the odd meal times. I've got personnel that in a 12-hour shift, sometimes they don't eat because they're busy. They're going from call to call to call.
Yeah.
And it's just very physically demanding, and that's not always in a good way, right? And so that regimen, that discipline of training is going to carry you through that. It'll at least help you recover faster.
Well, the amount of cortisol and stress hormones that a cop is exposed to, people underestimate how much of an impact that can have on your health if you don't mitigate it.
Yeah.
Like it really does.
Yeah, cardiac disease is so prevalent in our profession. Because
I think that's why so many cops have at least some minor amount of obesity.
Right.
Because that cortisol is just backing up.
Yeah.
Like they're not getting that cortisol out of their system. So their system is storing fat, it's a cascade if you don't take care of it.
And you get guys who stress eat, or they're bored or whatever. Well, this is fast, this is easy, and it's not always the best thing for you to eat. So yeah, it's not good, man. It's frustrating because then you're jammed up and this guy can't get over a fence. And now what?
Oh God. So I am not going to give this guy's name. All right. Okay. Because I don't want him. He's a good guy. I don't want to embarrass him. He's a good dude. But I'm in a foot chase one time. Brand new patrolman. I'm working with somebody a little more senior than me. And we get in a foot chase and I get the guy. And I get on the radio and I try to mobile with him. And he comes over the radio and goes, come back to the yard, and gives me an address. Yeah. I'm like, you okay? And he's like, just come back here. I'm like, okay, let me get this guy in the wagon and I'll be right there. So I throw the guy in the wagon and I walk over to the yard, and I don't know what I'm going to find. Like, I don't know if he broke his leg and doesn't want to let the radio know. I don't know what's going on, right? He caught his shoelace on the top of the chain link fence. And he's hanging upside down from the top of the chain link fence holding his pistol in both hands. And I'm like, are you okay? He's like, help me get the fuck down. I can't get down.
Oh man, lucky for him it's before cell phone cameras, huh?
Yeah. And I mean, really good guy, really good cop, fantastic dude. I'm not speaking ill of him, right?
No, of course not. It happens.
But like right there, I was like, and he was a little out of shape. You know what I mean? And I'm like, if he had been in the shape I had been in, he could have gotten himself off the fence.
Right. Yeah.
And I'm just like, I don't ever want that. I just don't.
Right. Yeah. I have a buddy of mine who's got enough size to him where he just ran through the fence. There you go. He just ran the damn thing down and got in the mix. So yeah.
We were talking a little bit before we started recording about our martial arts background.
Yeah.
I did Aikido as well.
Mm-hmm.
I've got a showdown in Aikido. Right?
Yeah. Nice.
And I was chasing a guy with a gun one time, and I threw him through a wooden fence.
Nice.
I expected him to bounce off the fence, and I can't really say it was the world's greatest throw. It's more that it was the world's worst fence.
Right.
But the rest of my team were on the other side of the fence when he came crashing through.
Mm-hmm.
So it was kind of a good action movie moment.
Yeah.
Regardless of that, the fence was probably going to fall apart if you breathed on it, but it looked cool.
I had one time ever that I did a kotogeshi, right? That wrist throw.
Yeah.
At work. And man, it was wild. So we're going to a burglary in progress. It's an older couple. They're in their 80s, and there's a guy actively kicking their door in, right? So this little old man has now pushed the couch against the front door of the house, right? So my partner's on the radio. He's like, I'll go through the alley. You go up front. That way, when he runs away from you, I'll catch him in the alley, right? Yeah, go for it, man. So I pull up front, and he did not run to the alley. Yeah, he wanted to make contact with me, right? And so I tell my partner, I'm like, okay, well, he's up front, like I'm making contact with him. And this guy was like on another planet, man. I don't even know where he was mentally or chemically, but man, he came at me like pretty aggressive, and he reached out to push me, and I just went right into the most beautiful throw off of his wrist. And my partner was just in time pulling up front to see it, and he landed like with his cheek on the driveway. And it was a very unique sound, right? Where somebody lands on their face on concrete, and was able to put him in cuffs. And my partner's like, what was that? It's like, why? What happened? He's like, Eric, you touched him and his feet are up by your head, and then he's on the ground. And I'm like, that was pretty cool, huh? I was like, I don't know how I did it. It was not a conscious thing. It just worked out perfect, man.
Yeah, I always liked Kotogaesh. That was always one of my favorites. And I found that if you change the angle a little bit, you take away their ability to roll out of it in the fall.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like when you're training with your partner, you kind of give them space to take the break fall. Right?
Yeah, yes.
But if you cut on a tighter angle, they wind up just kind of folding and crumpling at your feet.
Well, yeah, he crumpled for sure. But after doing Aikido, I did that for a few years, right? I had done boxing when I was a kid with my dad, and I had done some Shotokan karate when I was a kid. And this is just my opinion. I got into Brazilian jiu-jitsu. I think for police work, it's a lot more useful, in my opinion. You can determine where the fight's going to happen. If you don't want to get taken down, you won't. If you want to go to the ground, you will, right? And so my thing with that has always been, it's more camera friendly. That's the age that we live in now.
It is very much the age we live in, and I'm a big fan of BJJ. And like I did a judo too.
Right. Yeah.
And like the teaching methodology is different, and the teaching methodology in BJJ is brilliant. That positional teaching methodology is a great way to get the principles across. I love that. But if you can take some of the locks from Aikido, some of the strikes from anything from Muay Thai to Shotokan or whatever, and get like a good base of BJJ and mix those three things together, like you've got
Oh, you're set.
Yeah, and you don't even need to be that advanced in any of the three. Just a good solid grounding in the basics.
Yes. Yeah.
And with that combination, you're going to hold your own against the
Mhm.
vast majority of people in the world.
Right.
Easily.
So, yeah. What I like about it is that, police work, again, you're taking somebody into a custody. It's not about pain compliance, because
No.
they're fighting with you because either psychologically or chemically they're in an altered state, you know. So they'll feel it tomorrow.
Yeah.
I don't care for batons. I've seen batons used and to no effect. It's not about breaking anything, because again, that's not good. We're not trying to break anything when we're dealing with the subject. It's not about that. It's about positional control and dominance.
Yes.
Right. And so if you can determine when and where this is happening and how it's going to happen, you can save that subject from injury, and you can prevent injury to yourself, because it's not about hurting people or breaking anything.
No.
Right? It's taking them into custody.
It's about
as
affecting the arrest.
That's
what
it.
it's about.
Yeah,
it's professional. It's not.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's not the same thing as walking into the ring.
No, not at all. No.
And what I like too is like that whole positional theory of instruction, right? Like I've even taken that and adapted that to like standing grappling with a firearm.
Mm-hmm.
So like I use like a post, a frame, and a clinch
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
as my like foundational positions for standing grappling with a gun, just like BJJ uses the mount, the guard, and so on as their positions, right?
Yes.
And it's a great way to teach people that don't. And I'm not saying this is the BJJ practitioner, because it's not. Like those people, I mean, BJJ guys spend a lot of time working on getting good. That's not my point.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also a great way to teach people that are not going to put in thousands of reps on things, because now they have a framework to understand what makes it work, instead of trying to memorize, like the old school, if he throws a jab, do A, B, C, and D.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Attack me with the banana. Yeah. Remember that one?
Wait, you grabbed my wrist the wrong way.
Yeah, don't stab me like that. Yeah, exactly. Stab me like this.
I saw a video on this the other day on YouTube or something where like I think it was that Master Ken guy who's hilarious.
Mm-hmm.
And who actually he's actually a good martial artist when he's
Very
not making
good.
fun.
Yeah.
When he's not making fun of bad martial artists, he's
Yeah.
really good. But he goes, "You've made a common beginner's mistake and attacked me incorrectly."
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Don't attack me like that. Yeah, man. And so talking to rookies and even talking to my personnel who've been here a little bit longer, it's okay. What are you doing? What are you training in? Are you staying sharp? Are you on the range? I, by nature, am not a competitive person, but I constantly find myself in some sort of competition, right? I think I do it because I'm uncomfortable with it. And so I want to face that. And so you're going to find me in a pistol competition. We had an IDPA club here in town a few years back, and it was very active. And so that was a lot of fun. And that translated very well into patrol, doing 3-gun, doing, powerlifting, so I'm always pushing my guys, dude, have you done any competitions? You need to check your ego and run against civilians who do this for fun at a much higher level than police do, right? Police are notorious. You want to buy a great gun, get it. Police use trade-in pistol. It probably hasn't been shot very much. And so always encouraging my guys, train, and compete. Like you have to compete, and that will start revealing little things that maybe need to be put together a little bit better in your training.
Well, it's a pressure test, right?
Yes, exactly.
And so like USPSA or IDPA isn't the same type of pressure test as like something like BJJ, right?
No,
because there's not a non-cooperative opponent,
right?
But it is a pressure test of your technique.
Yes.
How fast are you? How accurate are you? How good are you at mitigating malfunctions? How good are you at movement, reloads, draws, all this stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it will expose your weaknesses mercilessly.
Yes.
And so like that's the other reason why I think BJJ is so fantastic compared to, and like I loved Aikido. Like Aikido was great. I loved karate. Karate was great. I competed nationally in karate back when it wasn't a kid's thing. and I was a kid. So like it was pretty rough and tumble back then.
Yeah.
Right. But the problem with things like that, especially stuff like Aikido, or like I did some traditional Japanese jiu-jitsu for a while, and they were great arts with some really cool techniques, but they were primarily trained cooperatively.
Yes. Absolutely.
And the problem with that, and the place where something like judo or Muay Thai or BJJ shines, is that you're pressure testing. Yes, you're doing fewer techniques, and they're not as, I'll use the air quotes, they're not as lethal for the street, right?
Yeah.
But you're actually doing them against someone who doesn't want you to be able to do them.
Yeah. And they're trying to get you into something too. Yeah.
And that makes a difference, right?
Yeah.
That makes a huge difference.
Big time.
And I think that like one of the prescriptions I give civilians who are interested in learning how to defend themselves with a firearm, right, is find some sort of analog they can do for force on force.
Right.
And I don't care if it's paintball or airsoft. Yes, those are games. Competitive BJJ is a game too. Boxing is a game, right? Muay Thai is a game.
Yeah.
But you will be working against an opponent who is trying to do the same things to you you're trying to do to them.
Right.
And you need to learn those lessons somewhere.
Yes. Absolutely. Yeah. And I had done paintball when I was younger, man. We traveled all over the state of Texas and into the northern part of Mexico playing tournament paintball. And I liked it because you learn angles.
Yes.
You learn how to move. You learn how to tuck somebody in behind cover and capitalize on that move and get a better angle. Not a gunfight, but somebody's actively trying to nail you with this little paintball. And
yeah, I mean, like I said, there's limitations, right?
Yes.
Cover versus concealment. People get overconfident. There's definitely limitations, and it is a game. But you learn to capture your opponent's timing. You learn to read their body language. You learn to drive them behind cover. You learn to fix them and flank them. You learn all these things that you can't learn at a USPSA or IDPA match. And I'm not knocking those either, because I love doing those. I do them all the time. But you're pressure testing something different there.
Right. And you learn how to think while everything is going on crazy around you. Where's my team? I need to communicate with them while this is going on.
Yep.
Where's my opponent? And so you really learn to slow down and see that arena. Okay, where am I going next? Right. Because you can't, if you lose your bearings, you're going to get nailed. So you just really have to slow down, like, okay, let's think through this and fix it.
I think I just came up with a paraphrase for Wyatt Earp that I like. Like, this just popped into my head.
What's that?
You've got to learn to be methodical quickly.
Yeah.
You know, he said you have to learn to make haste slowly. So I'm going to paraphrase it, say it a little bit different.
Yeah.
You have to learn to be methodical as quickly as you can.
Yes. Yeah.
And I think that's like that mindset, I think, is one of the keys to handling conflict, period. You don't have time to waste, but you can't just go off half-cocked either. You've got to evaluate the situation, make the proper decisions, and go.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like they say, well, you got the rest of your life to figure it out.
However long that may be.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah. Be methodical quick. Yeah.
All right. So let's talk about Los Rukos Barbell.
Sure.
I love that stuff. Tell everybody about that.
Okay. So Los Rukos Barbell, we call it a club, right? It's an apparel brand. And so this whole thing got started during the pandemic, right? Gyms had just opened back up, and I was doing CrossFit at that time. And I remember being there, heck, I was like 40 years old. And this particular day, because not every day in a CrossFit box is the same. Some days life just sucks, man, because either your nutrition's off, your hydration wasn't that great, or you didn't sleep so hot. But this particular day, I was flying. Like, everything was firing off. Perfect, man. Like, I just felt like a winner, dude. And so I remember I was in the class and I was looking at kids half my age, in their 20s. And in my opinion, right, from what I could see, they weren't trying. They were just half-assing everything. They're on the struggle bus. And that upset me. And I remember thinking to myself, I think, I was like, yo que estoy canoso, tengo ganas, meaning, I have gray hair and I still have that ganas. That ganas is that desire, what's your excuse, right? And so my reason for being upset is because you stay in this profession long enough and you start to see that death does not respect age, and so I've been with kids on their 21st birthday that die, and now I got to go find mom and tell her, hey, your son just passed away right on his birthday. um we've all seen babies die, so you learn real quick death doesn't respect age. And so my whole thing with life is you have to do something with it. It has to mean something, right? You got to have purpose. You got to have drive, dude. And so, like I told my son and I told my nephew just signed up. He's going to join the military here as soon as he gets out of high school. And I told him, I was like, look, the only life worth living is one of service. That's it. Like, if you're living solely for yourself, you have wasted your life, you know? And so I'm looking at these kids and they're not even trying. And I'm like, guys, you're running out of future. It doesn't matter if you're in your 20s, and it bothered me. And so that saying that ganas y ganas, right, which is that gray hair and that drive, that will, it kind of stuck with me as a tagline. And during that time, I had been working with a buddy of mine. He had his own clothing brand, and just sitting down with him and like, hey man, like this would be a cool idea for a t-shirt. And I just found it so like cathartic and rewarding to come up with a design and to give it to him. And man, he's selling t-shirts and people are digging it, and I'm like, man, that's kind of cool. So I have my cousin, and I called her up. I was like, hey man, I have an idea for a piece of art. She's an artist. I was like, can you do this for me? And she's like, yeah. So man, she slammed it out of the park on draft one. And I'm like, yep, that's it. So we made 60 shirts that me and my buddy did. And we didn't think they were going to do anything. You know what I mean? Because it's tailored towards, men with gray hair, right? Like older dudes. And I'm like, yeah, we'll sell 60 of these maybe. And, haha, that was fun, right? I just thought it was cool. And they sold out. And what we were not anticipating is females buying them, like just snapping them up and wanting their own brand for ladies, right? And so we turned it into a brand. And so I never wanted to print a shirt that said, go big or go home. You know what I mean? Like, one more rep. I didn't ever want to print anything cliche. And so one of the first shirts that we printed, and we still have it because people keep ordering it. It's two tigers. Think of it like the yin and the yang, right? It's two tigers, and it simply says, fight yourself first.
Yeah. No, that's one of my favorites. I like
right. That. Yeah. And so I just want to put something out there that it's a really wicked design. A lot of our stuff is very heavily influenced by American traditional tattoo. Like, I have a ton of tattoos. You may never see them, right? But I got a bunch. And I love throwing that back to that old school Americana. So like our flagship female design, it's going to be a direct tribute to Rosie the Riveter and all of our grandmas and our great grandmas that carried this country through World War II, while all the men were away fighting, they were here working in factories and stepping into law enforcement and doing all these things that, they hadn't done previous to this, in American history. And so we wanted to do a direct nod to them. So a lot of our stuff is going to be that, very heavily influenced by American traditional tattoo and just those values that we need to look back on it and think on. And so another shirt that we put out, it's a beautiful design, man. And it's a parrot, right? And it's just says purpose demands vision. It's a simple saying, but think about it. What does that mean, right? Like, because so many men are like, well, what's my purpose? Well, what's your vision, dude?
Yeah.
You can't get there if you don't know where you're trying to get. And so we started putting t-shirts out. Well, again, going back to what we were just talking about here a little bit about, life having to mean something. We started another sub brand because a lot of my stuff, started leaning heavily into tactical. We got to put a gun here, and so my wife's like, hey, this is gym stuff. Like, let's, dial it back down on the tactical side. And so I'm like, okay, well, let's start a new line called Tlacuache Tactical, and let's aim that at LE and at MIL personnel. And I wanted it to mean something. And so Tlacuache is a possum. That is the traditional native Mexican word for a possum. And the reason that we picked that animal is because we use it as a symbol of resilience, right? Possum, you hit it with the truck, it gets up and crosses the street anyway. You know what I mean? You can't kill them, dude. And so what these little guys do, you know, we take them for granted, right? Because they look kind of ugly, but we take them for granted that they eat venomous bugs like spiders and scorpions. They eat ticks. They eat venomous snakes. They eat rats. They eat mice. So the takeaway from that is we want our active duty personnel to be that scary little thing in the dark. You know, you go out there and you raised your right hand and you gave an oath that you were going to clean up your community and your backyard. Well, now's your shot, right? You're going to go get rid of all the snakes and the rats and everything that's harmful to your environment and your community. But you're going to get bit, right? Possums are immune to snake venom. I think one documented case that I read, a possum got bit 83 times by a squirrel, and it just shook it off and ate it, right? These possums will kill and eat rattlesnakes, man. Like, and they'll gobble them up, you know? And so we take that as an opportunity to talk to the personnel about post-traumatic stress. You know, like, I hate that word disorder. Like, I don't like it, but
well, it's not a disorder. It's an injury.
Right.
It's a psychological injury is what it is.
And that is how your body processes trauma.
Yeah.
You know, and how do we heal from it? Do we have the right methods and coping mechanisms and tools to overcome it? Right. And some guys choose poor coping mechanisms for whatever reason. You know, I know sometimes, you know, before this whole thing, and I had to go through it, I had to go through a depression, and it made me so angry to go through that and to realize that I was going through it. I remember because I would just come home and I just wasn't the most pleasant person to walk in the door, you know, and my wife had to pull me aside and she says, hey, something's the matter, you know, because the kids aren't excited about you coming home, and I'm not either, you know. And she says, what's wrong? And I had to really sit down with that, because no dad wants to hear that, you know, that
Yeah.
kids aren't excited about dad coming home, you know. But I was just not in a good headspace at that time, you know, based on everything that was going on, you know, things that I was not processing at work that I should have been, things in between my ears. And I said, you know, I need to go talk to somebody. And, you know, I kind of sat down with it and I said, you know what? Okay, what is happiness? Okay, well, to me, happiness was just something that happens quick and you move on, right? It's a fleeting moment. But what is joy? You know, because in my opinion, joy kind of carries you. It's that little background music that, you know, you're okay, you know. And I couldn't define it. I was like, I don't even remember the last time I was happy. You know, as cops, we're so good at putting on a mask, right?
Yeah.
Because we can sit with somebody and listen to the most traumatic experience that they've had, and we have to be like doctors, just poker face, and, you know, or you're trying to interview somebody who harmed somebody else, and
You've got to treat them like it's okay, so they'll talk to you.
Thank you.
And that was always, I felt like I got pretty good at it.
Yeah.
But it was never what I wanted to be saying to the guy.
Yes.
But you carry that weight with you because you feel like you gave him, what's the right word? You validated what he did.
Like a pass. Like, that's okay.
Yeah.
I understand.
Yeah. And it's not what you're doing, really, because you're trying to get the guy to say what he did so you can lock him up. But
Exactly.
But it's what it feels like.
Yes.
And it's how your brain processes what it feels like, not what it actually was.
Yeah, exactly. And so we get really good at wearing masks as cops, right? And that's the point that I'm trying to get at, is we get so good at concealing what is going on inside, you know. And so, like, at work, and to this day, my personnel is like, man, I've never seen the LT mad, you know. Well, they just don't know that I'm having a bad day. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I'm not going to put that on them. You know what I mean? If they're dealing with me, they're going to deal with somebody who's in a good mood, because I'm not trying to step on their day. And so sitting down with that and going and finding a counselor and talking with him and ironing these things out, and then talking to somebody else and talking to a neurologist, and like, okay, walk through these things, man, and really overcoming that and plugging fitness into it. And so that's why we wanted to start this program. And so what we've been able to do with it, we haven't done it in a little bit. We've got one coming up. I'm going to iron it out, and it's going to be in the San Antonio area, man. So hopefully you and Angela can drop down and hang out with us that day. But what we've done with it is this: we will have a critical incident debrief, right? So these events that we host, right, they're called Tlacuache Throwdowns. They're always free. There is nothing for sale. I don't talk about merch. I don't bring merch with me. If you want a t-shirt, there's a website. I don't have it with me today. You know, I don't care about that. I care about you. And the critical incident debrief is going to take two things. Spouses are always invited, because I remember my wife sat through a critical incident debrief that I did at a university class, right? And this was on a hostage rescue that we had done on the team. And we're driving home, and she's like, well, I knew what happened, but I didn't know, boom, 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 these other little points that you mentioned tonight. And so the reason we want spouses there is because it allows that conversation to happen, right? Your wife is along for the ride, or your husband's along for the ride. If you're a cop, your family's along for the ride. I can tell you right now, growing up, my kids, oh, I want to go sleep over. Nuh-uh. You ain't gonna go sleep over anywhere. If your friend wants to come hang out here, they can do that, right? So your family's along for the ride, because of what we see and what we deal with. We're gonna have a critical incident debrief twofold. If we can front load somebody's gonna go up there and they're gonna talk and say, hey, look, this is what I went through. This is what it was like before, during, and after. This is the hole that I found myself in. This is how I got out. We've had guys go up and say, you know what? I was drinking an 18-pack a night until my family walked in and said, we're leaving, and that kind of snapped him out of it. I've had another officer go up and he said, I locked myself in the gym. I went and found a counselor, and I went and talked to my priest. And I just, that was his thing. I needed to hit the spiritual side, the mental side, and the physical side. And I was great. I stayed away from alcohol, right? And so we want to front load personnel, because remember, the mind doesn't know. Your imagination, your subconscious, reality, and a dream, it's all the same.
Yeah.
Right. And so if we can go through a critical incident debrief and walk you through it, when this officer goes through something, their subconscious has a frame of reference. Oh, I remember so-and-so talked about this at that talk we had, and they had nightmares. It's okay. It's normal. Or they smelled this smell again, or they, whatever the experience was, now they're not isolated. Because sometimes we go through these things and we feel isolated, because if we talk about it, we're weak, or we can't handle it, or whatever, you know what I mean? Because, well, my partner has been through worse. Well, dude, your trauma is yours. It's not better or worse than the next guy's trauma. And yeah, he looks like he's handling it well, but number one, we don't know what's under the mask, and we don't know what his ruck weighs. He may be carrying something really heavy, but just doesn't show it.
Well, and not just that, but to go back to the injury analogy, right? So you and I could suffer the same fall.
Right.
And be identically fit and identically sturdy of body, right?
Yeah.
And that fall might screw me up way worse than you, just because I managed to land a slightly different way.
Yes. Absolutely.
It's not that guy's better than me because he didn't get hurt as bad.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But, so we want to take away that stigma of talking about it. Dude, talk about it. It's okay.
This is really, not only is this really good, it's something kind of near and dear to my heart. There's a guy named Tom Spooner in the special operations community that single-handedly removed the stigma from PTS.
Good.
For operators, like single-handedly. I'm sure, other people helped, but it was really him. He was the guy that, because he was so well respected and because of what he'd gone through, he was able to make it where nobody in SF anymore, for the most part, is reluctant to get help or to talk about it.
Right. Yeah.
And dude, if you can do that for law enforcement, that's huge, because law enforcement needs that.
Yes.
I would actually, this is not a black and white either or statement. I just want to preface it with that. But people, I think, somehow think that PTS is a bigger deal for the military than for law enforcement. And having done both at what I feel is a pretty high level, right?
Yeah.
I don't agree with that. I think it's different.
Yes.
The frequency of events in the military is less, and the severity of the average event is higher.
Right.
But the frequency of events in law enforcement, even though the severity is on average lower, is immensely larger.
Oh yeah.
The volume is just huge. The volume is huge.
Yeah.
And it's like a chronic injury, right? It can be an acute injury too. Like if you go through something really horrible, it can be acute. But I think a lot of PTS is like a chronic injury.
Right.
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 So volume, even though the severity may be less, can be more impactful than lesser volume and high severity.
Yeah, because you're looking at 20-year career, on the low end if you want to retire right at 20. The back end of those talks is, let's say there's somebody in the group that has already gone through something and they're not coping with it well, right? Now they have quote unquote permission to get help. Now they have a peer that they can reach out to. They're no longer isolated. They're not the only one that feels this way or has thought these things or has experienced those things. And so that's what we want to do, is just take away that stigma. It's like, look, dude, you're not alone. It's okay. It's normal. This is how your body processes trauma. How do we heal it? What modality is going to work for you? So it is becoming more common in LE. I remember when I came in, if we had a shoot, if we were involved in a shooting, you were off 3 days, you talk to the shrink, and that's it. Boom, you're back. And everybody pats you on the back. Hey, I'm glad you're okay. And that was it, man. Like, that was it. Well, before then, you talk to the old timers and they're like, we didn't get 3 days off. We, get into a shooting and come back to work the next day. And you know what I mean? And so it's changing, it's evolving. Now, I think the doctors that we're dealing with and the psychologists that we're dealing with are more, heck, man, I think they just have a deeper base to work with on, okay, how do we mitigate the effects of post-traumatic stress on the front end? Because I believe if we front load people first, we can mitigate a whole lot of problems later,
Oh, absolutely. I think like say you're in the shoot, right?
Yeah.
One of the reasons, assuming it's a good shooting.
Yeah.
If you've done the mental math ahead of time, it shouldn't really impact you that much, because you're going to understand that it was really that guy's decision, not yours.
Right. He pushed it.
Right.
He pushed it.
But you have to do that math ahead of time.
Yeah.
Because if you don't do that math ahead of time, you're not going to have that same reaction. You're not going to have the same perspective.
No, you won't.
And it's not something you can wait for the event to do, because it's already happened, right? Your brain has already processed it however it's going to process it.
Yes.
You've got to do that homework ahead of time.
It's very if versus when, right? If you look at it as, well, if this happens, you need to look at it like, well, when this happens, this is, my the math, the math has been done.
Well, and it's no different than like an immediate action drill or a battle drill. Like you're doing it for a mental situation. Just like as a young cop, you start thinking about, well, how do I go into the convenience store in case there's a robbery going on? How do I do this? How do I do that to set myself up for success? It's no different. It's the same.
Yeah.
You're setting yourself up for success ahead of time. So real quick, because we've already gone over an hour, of course, I knew we would. We could probably go 3 more. So tell everybody how to find you, get a hold of you, and how to sign up for one of these events if they can.
Okay. So I'm working on that one in San Antonio area, man. That's going to be good. Follow me, my main page. It's going to be at Los Rukos. That's LOSRUKOS_Barbell. That's our main page. That'll link you right over to the LE line, which is going to be Tlacuache Tactical. But follow that one. That's where we're going to be pushing everything. Right now, a lot of that page's content is heavily into the Lone Star Games. That's another organization that we started. That's going to be a CrossFit competition that we're having here in town in June. That we're going to do a sanctioned strongman event. That's going to be absolutely wild, man. We've got teams coming in from all over Texas and a team from California. but follow me there, and I will start pushing as soon as I lock down these details for the San Antonio area. Man, it's going to be good. We made some good contacts over at the TTPOA SWAT conference. We were able to put some stuff together, so we're pretty stoked about that, man.
Is that where you were when you were ducking me during the conference and I couldn't find you?
I was in one spot. I was at my booth. I didn't go anywhere, man.
I honestly don't know how I missed you because I walked the whole floor.
Well, no,
I don't know what happened.
I'll tell you a funny story. So we start on Wednesday loading in, right? Thursday's the first day of the show. Well, I get an order online on Thursday, and I'm like, okay, well, it's, for X many shirts. And I was like, well, I hope this guy's patient because they're not shipping out till Monday, right? So he'll get them next week sometime. Well, the next day he comes to the table. He's like, hey, man, I didn't know you were here. I keep seeing everybody with your shirts. And I told my partner, I was like, man, I wish they were here. And he's like, he's right over there. Like, he pointed. He's like 2 tables down. He's like, can I just have my order? I'm like, yes, please. That way I don't have to ship it to you. Take it now. So, yeah, that show was awesome. Like, yeah, it was busy.
It was pretty packed this year.
It was. This is the first time they have to move people out to the barn. It's only getting better. Yeah. So we're excited about that.
As always, brother, it's great talking to you.
Yeah.
Without a doubt. Let me know about the San Antonio one, because
I will.
Assuming I'm not teaching somewhere, Angela and I will drive down. It's a short drive for us now. We're just up here in Lockhart. Yeah.
Real quick.
So yeah. I'd like to make that. And I got to put in a t-shirt order too. There's a couple Angela wants. So we'll talk offline.
At the end of this month, 24th, I want to say. I don't have my calendar in front of me. We're going to be at the tactical games up in Mountain Home, Texas, just north of Kerrville.
Okay.
We're going to be there for 2 days. That'll be a Saturday, Sunday. So if anybody's in the area and wants to hang out, go hang out, man. Go watch tactical games for a little bit and go meet us.
Well, I hope everybody enjoyed this episode as much as I did. I always like talking to Eric. We made pretty fast friends through Instagram a couple years back, and we've been talking a lot ever since. He's a good dude. Definitely repping a good cause, so support it if you can. And I will talk to everybody at the next episode. Take care, everybody.
Thanks for tuning in, everyone. I hope you enjoyed this episode of The Way is in Training. Please come back again as we explore how training makes us better at our craft and better in our everyday lives. See all of you soon.